guys, welcome to another Bookmas video. Now when I was creating my calendar, I originally had a different video planned for this day. It was supposed to be popular books I don't like, because I often get recommended popular books that I've read and haven't enjoyed. So I thought I would do a video on that, and then I realized I don't really care to do a video about books that I don't like. So because last week I was going to do fantasy and science fiction recommendations in one video, but I realized I have a decent amount of science fiction recommendations. I decided to make it its own separate video, and that's what this is. I would put myself down as somebody that's new to the science fiction genre. I think that I started reading it, I would say, about 3 years ago, and didn't realize, like, for a while that I actually enjoyed it. I had to read a few of them, and then I started connecting the dots and realized, hey, I actually like this genre. That being said, there's been a lot of duds. So these are, I think, 9 of my favorites. They kind of span a wide variety. We've got some YA, we've got some adult, we've got some Christian and some mainstream. There's like space kind of science fiction, there's alternate history, there's a little bit of everything, I feel like. So after you have seen my favorites, I would love if you have some recommendations for me, because I really want to dive more into this genre with good books. I actually have a decent amount up on my TBR shelf that I really want to try. Obviously, lots of books, not always enough time, but let's just get into the list. The first one, my daughter's actually reading, so I just have the dust jacket. It is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This was what I'm considering my first science fiction book, and I loved it. So in this one, we follow a girl named Spensa. She lives on this planet. Her whole community came on a ship many years ago, and I think they had like a sudden landing. They weren't really supposed to land on that planet. Their planet is often getting attacked by like aliens, and she wants to become a pilot to pretty much to prove herself. Her dad was a pilot and was deemed a coward, and she wants to fight against that. She, as a character, has a lot of spunk, and I loved reading about her. I don't think I would like her as an actual person friend. I don't think we'd get along super well, but she was fun to read about because she's a lot of action, and she's got some bite to her, I guess, her words. She does mature throughout the series. This is going to be a 4-book series. Currently 3 books are out. Skyward, the first book, is definitely the best, but I'm very curious to see how Sanderson ends this whenever he writes the last one. This next one was actually one of my one of the recommendations from one of my patrons over on Patreon. This is Wolf by Wolf. So this is actually a duology. It is an alternate history where if in World War II the ending was the opposite and the Germans won, and here there is a motorbike race from Germany to Japan, and because they control like all of Europe and Asia pretty much, and our main character was in a concentration camp in World War II, and she underwent some experiments. She was a Jew, but the doctors were trying to make her look like, you know, one of those good German girls, blonde, blue eyes, and somehow through this she got the ability to skin shift, where she can change the look of her face and her features, and she enters the race. And yeah, I don't know. I actually only gave this book 4.5 stars, but the second book in the series I gave 5 stars. That one's called Blood for Blood. And then there's also some novellas, I think, that go along with it that I really want to read. I haven't yet, but I thoroughly enjoyed this alternate history. It made me want to read more alternate history, but I haven't really found any that like is to this level. Really enjoyed it. This one was recommended to me a lot before I finally bit the bullet and read it, and maybe because it's a thick one. This is The Host by Stephanie Meyer. So she's like most well known for her Twilight series, which I've never read, don't really have any interest in reading, other than maybe just getting that, like, knowing the pop culture references. But this one is in a world where beings, I would say like alien beings, have come from space, and they've taken over a lot of human bodies, hosts, and they take over their memories and change a lot of things. A number of people are in hiding to avoid being taken over, and our main character, right at the beginning of the story, she gets taken over, but she fights the alien. And oh man, like describing it, I just feel like this is such a weird book. Even I don't really like it based off of that description, but I really enjoyed the book. I listened to it on audio, and then I actually got my husband, we watched the movie together. The movie's okay, but it's like condensing all of this into a like short movie, so it skims over a lot of the stuff that I enjoyed. But yeah, really enjoyed this. This one really surprised me. Okay, maybe I lied. I read this book before I read Skyward. This is Cinder. This is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, so this is probably the first science fiction book off of this list that I read. This is, well, it's a 4-book series, so there are fairy tale retellings. This one is based off of Cinderella. If Cinderella was a cyborg living in Asia during a pandemic, and there's moon people that they interact with, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, and I really enjoyed the series. This book, the first one is definitely my favorite. The second book is my least favorite. I feel like I gotta get through to that one, and then I enjoy the rest of the series. But this was a lot of fun, and it makes me want to read more fairy tale retellings if they're done well, which it can be hard to know going into it, but really enjoyed this one. This next one was one I just finished, and book 2 just came out. I need to get my hands on it like ASAP. This is Recorder by Kathy McCrum. This is a space, set in space as well as a lot of other science fiction books. Our main people that we hang out with are the recorders. So there's this place called the Consortium where people can gift their children. Often they will do this if their kids are going to be born with defects or something. They can gift their children there, and the recorder's job is to solely record events in an unbiased manner. So they are raised without names. They're not even given numbers because that would identify you. They're not allowed to have emotions at a certain age. They are connected to a drone that will, I don't know if it's like an electric shock, it will do something terrible to them, negative to them every time they display too much emotion. So they're supposed to be very unbiased. And at the beginning of the story, our recorder that's our main character, she is going on a mission with some like normal people. I mean, they're from Earth originally, but you know, like they've been living in space, but normal as far as their emotions and a lot of things that happen. They go on a mission together and something happens and her drone is wrecked, and now she is no longer punished for having emotion, and she's going through a lot of stuff. And yeah, I don't know, this is so fun. I really need to buy book 2 right away. This one, I struggled to categorize this one. I'm going with science fiction, and if I'm wrong, too bad, that's just what I've decided. This is Illusion by Frank Peretti. So Frank Peretti's books are often very like supernatural suspense books. This one is different. I would put it in science fiction for reasons I can't really say a whole lot without giving too many spoilers. I mean, you can kind of pick it up from the synopsis, but we follow Dane and Mandy. They've been married for 40 years, and right at the beginning of the book, Mandy dies. So Dane is mourning her passing. They were a magic show together, and meanwhile, while he's mourning the loss of his wife, she is waking up in present day, or whenever this started, I think 2010, as the person she was in 1970 as a 19-year-old. So she goes from being 19 at a carnival in 1970 to all of a sudden she's in 2010. Yeah, that makes sense. Still as that 19-year-old though, and still having those like 70s mannerisms and style and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people have read this since I've talked about it and not really enjoyed it. My husband being one of them, but I did enjoy it. He was just angry. He's like, why did you make me read this book about this guy that's just mourning the loss of his wife? But I still think it's a good book. Okay, and then there's 3 books that I don't have copies of. The first one is Tainted. I actually just talked about this one recently in a books I don't talk about enough. This is a science fiction, kind of like Frankenstein retelling, but not not completely. Our main character is a young woman who, her father is a scientist, and he has used her to perform experiments on. So we're set probably, I would say, like 1800s, and it's steampunk as well, which is just a cool element. And yeah, so she has these powers because she has been experimented on, and it's a duology. There's 2 books in the series, one I really want to reread. Then Jennifer A. Nielsen is a well-known author, usually for her Ascendance series or her historical fiction. But I think actually one of my favorites from her is The Scourge. This is pandemic-esque. We're in a world where they're kind of like people that live in the woods and people that live in the city, and there's an outbreak, a pandemic of sorts, and the people in the town are scared that it's coming from the people in the woods, and if you get it, you are shipped off to this island. And our main character has the symptoms of this when she's captured by, and therefore she's captured by a bunch of townspeople, and goes to this island and things ensue. Really enjoyed that story. I wish she would write more books in that vein. And then the last one, this is you either love it or you don't kind of book, and that's Project Hail Mary. I went into it thinking I would be one of those people that didn't love it, and boy was I wrong. You have to be okay with certain elements of science fiction. This is one that I feel like saying anything is spoilery, because I loved watching it unfold, but unfortunately I had been spoiled for like the main spoilery thing, so it wasn't, I probably didn't have as much fun as I could have, but I still had a blast with it. So we're following this man who, as he wakes up, he's waking up on a spaceship, but he's lost his memory. So that's where I feel like you can't, I don't want to say too much, because we're like finding out things along with him. He doesn't know his name, why he's on the ship, like what's going on. There's so many things. And then as he is, there's like a computer that's asking him questions. I don't remember exactly what they were, but like, what's your name? And then like different levels of questions. And then as he can answer them, he gets access to more things, and then more things are like coming back to him. I really enjoyed it. But I have noticed about my reading, my science fiction reading, that I like the elements that are in this book. If you're not a fan of the previous books that I've mentioned, you might not like this one, but I sure did. So there you go. Those are, I think, 9 science fiction recommendations that I have loved. Like, I have given all of these 5 stars. Some of them I've reread. The rest of them I want to reread. Enjoyed each and every one. Please give me some science fiction recommendations in the comments. Something in similar veins to these. I would love that. Thanks for being here, guys, and I will be back again tomorrow with another video.